Someone asked earlier what the responsibility was for MOOGFEST to talk about the difficult topics there are today, whether or not it's queer studies, whether or not it's Afrofuturism, all these intersectional things that are happening in humanity and in various disciplines. And I think one of the great answers on the stage was that MOOGFEST, in allowing us to get here and just talk and represent and ask questions and allow this dialogue to take place and give us a wonderful forum for this dialogue to take place, that they are already doing the right thing. And that now it's our energy and how we connect with one another and the things that we say, the questions you guys ask, the responses we give to those questions, and the way that we think about the world anew after this dialogue is really the process, the journey that we're all going through at MOOGFEST is really a prism to make that happen. So thank you for allowing us all to be here today. And we have another dialogue after the one you're going to see. We're just so excited about the discipline of Afrofuturism and what it means to humanity and the world. Thank you so much. I would like to introduce the wonderful person who's going to be moderating this amazing dialogue we're about to have. Her name is Kimberly Drew, and she's a curator and an art historian and an all-around, what I would say is that we have a friend named Dr. Urban, and he talks about something called the Thrivals. And he talks about this new generation of millennials that are not just surviving, they're thriving. And she is a wonderful epitome and representation of that. Kimberly Drew.
Hey y'all, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I am so excited, and we are gonna just get straight to the bios. I am so pumped to be a part of this conversation. I got the call and I was like, am I cool enough for this? So I wore this cool dress to try to pretend. But anyway, so I will start first. If you are a panelist, make your way towards the stage. Hieroglyphic Being, aka Jamal Moss, has long been a pillar of the modern Chicago house scene. He was a protege of the house legend Adonis, and his roots in Chicago house extend back to Ron Hardy, who in the mid-1980s picked up Frankie Knuckles' baton at the storied warehouse renamed Music Box, and brought the scene to full bloom. In the late 80s and early 90s, Moss was a part of the posse that kicked off the legendary Liquid Love and then Liquid Sex parties. In the mid-90s, he hosted and DJ'd for WNUR's 89.3 Street Beat program. And we're so excited to have you here, if you want to take a seat. Thank you, Jamal. Hey. Also joining us on the panel is the producer group Christian Rich. They are Grammy-nominated, Nigeria-raised, Chicago-born, and LA-based now. The DJ duo consists of two twin brothers. I'm gonna butcher this, and I am so embarrassed. Taiwo and Kehinde Hassan. Under the guidance of Pharrell and Shay Haley of NERD, they've worked with Diddy, Lupe, J. Cole, Lil' Kim, and others. Paying the favor back, they introduced Pharrell and Earl Sweatshirt, which birthed the song Burgundy off of Earl's debut album Doris, on which they also produced 4 tracks. And their most recent, because I don't know everything, but my most favorite thing that you guys have worked on is Vince Staples' Senorita, so thank you for that. Thank you. And next up is Reggie Watts, an internationally renowned, give it up for Reggie. An internationally renowned vocal artist, beatboxer, musician, comedian, just total polymath, who wows his audience with live performances which are 100% improvised. Using his formidable voice, looping pedals, and his vast imagination, Reggie blends and blurs the lines between music and comedy. No two performances are the same, and to that end, genius is the word that is most often used to describe Reggie Watts. Give it up for Reggie. And last but not least, I got to sit on a panel earlier with her, and it's pretty awesome. Janelle Monáe. Hi. a Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, performer, and producer, known for her unique style and groundbreaking sound. In 2010, she released Arc Android, which reached number 17 on the Billboard charts and earned her 2 Grammy nods. In 2013, she released the critically acclaimed album, The Electric Lady, featuring artists like the late Prince and Miguel. In 2015, Monáe announced her independent label Wonderland Records through a joint venture partnership with Epic. And in 2017, as Chuck mentioned, but I'll say again because I am so pumped, in 2017, she'll be on the silver screen in the film Hidden Figures. Give it up for our panelists. There's so many of us up here. So I guess we'll just start with the first question, which is kind of, the guiding question for why we're all here. Could you all just tell me about your first interaction with Afrofuturism and in what ways it has impacted your career or the way that you see the world? And anyone can start.
All right, since everybody looking at me, I'll give it a go. I guess my first encounter was when I was at university. I went to Northwestern. I was a cultural anthropology major with a minor in ethnographic film studies. So I was walking around campus, and in the music I was involved with, especially around students of different cultural backgrounds, they was coming to me like, oh, the stuff you're doing is very Afro-futuristic or Afro-futurism. And I looked at them like they was crazy. I'm like, no, it's black music, it's house music, it's where I came from. And it was just weird that somebody all of a sudden tagged me like I was a new pet from like a kennel or something and just said, this is who you are. You know how you get a kitten and you tell the kitten your name is Fido, and the kitten eventually just says, okay, I'm Fido, and and accepts it. So that's what it felt like when everybody was telling me like, oh yeah, you're Afrofuturist. You have a place in the future. You belong. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, thank you. I appreciate that, to telling me I can live on. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you giving me permission to exist, 2,000 years from now. So, but it's like if you go to the jungle and you look at a lion and you try to call it Simba, he gonna eat you. You know what I'm saying? He ain't Simba, you're food. So that's my take on it when I really hear the word Afrofuturism, because where I come from, we call it Nubian right. We work hard how we want to represent ourselves to the world and not be tagged because somebody thinks it's intellectually cute. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? With the hierarchy, universities or dinner table talk, or, oh, I wrote a book about these people over there, why they're not like these other people over here in modern day culture. So that's my take on it. Yeah, I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be really, really messed up talking about this. Yeah.
I just heard the term when we got booked for this. Yeah, we talking groups.
We just learned the term today.
Yeah, we looked it up. We didn't know it was a real term
We
because
didn't realize we were part of this. We just thought we were electronic DJs and producers.
see, what's funny to us is who we are as people naturally. Now, like he said, it's a category, and we like sci-fi. We grew up on the original Total Recall, Philip K. Dick books and stuff like that, Twilight Zone, and all that mystic stuff. But then we also grew up in Nigeria and Lagos, so we just kind of always took everything and just put it in a pot and do whatever we wanted. And we were having a discussion earlier. I think it's kind of unfortunate that when you're black or African or someone of color, everything we do has to be a hyphen or something. It's not like I'm an artist. It's like I'm African American. I'm a Afrofuturist instead of just, oh, he's an electronic artist. So that's it's dope, but it's also very interesting. It has to be a subgenre or something like that.
I think looking up the term and seeing what it means, I think we're going to get into a lot of this today. It's scary that things that people of color, the fact we even separate color, which is just depending on your climate and where you live and the equator, blah, 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 depicts what your culture is going to be, which is not true. But this term is interesting to me, and I'm really interested to see how it's going to play out, how everyone feels. But for us, I don't think it's necessary. I just think we're musicians that make music that feels good to us. And if it touches black, white, yellow, blue, then it does. If it doesn't, okay, it was whack, whatever. But yeah, First time hearing it was today when we got called, and it was like, okay, let's see how this goes.
Oh, we do fit that category.
We do fit it.
Like, oh, that's us.
We fit it. I just didn't know.
That's great.
I didn't know it existed, you know. So it's, yeah, it's like finding out you have a child, and it's like, it was mine. Okay, cool. We'll roll with it, you know.
It kind of got your nose, so.
Yeah, it got my nose, so it got it in mine.
What's that line from Formation?
Oh,
The Jackson 5 nostrils.
Jackson 5 nostrils, yeah.
Yeah, it's happening.
Well, you know, I mean, when I think of the term, you know, I think of like fusion. Like, to me, when I hear that term, I think of fusion in that Afrofuturism, meaning there was the introduction of synthesis and experimentation and funk and groove and strong African identity, but also relating to UFOs, ancient aliens, things of that nature. That when I hear that term, that's what I think of. But I guess that's what I think of. But for myself personally, I think it's about understanding and feeling the roots of African music and rhythms, mixed with the influence of modern society and your personal experience. As long as you have the groove, as long as it feels sincere and real and genuine, it doesn't feel like you're appropriating because it sounds cool. I think it's a spirit, and it's independent of race. I think it's a spirit, and people know it when they hear it immediately. So that's what I gotta say.
Yeah, the moment I started talking about androids, that's when I was labeled an Afro-futurist. Before that, when I just wore my afro and I was just singing songs on the guitar, I was neo-soul. But when you start talking about robots and shit, you know, I think it's kind of cool. I grew up on David Bowie, Prince, visionaries, concept albums, all those things. So when I think about it, I think it's something fresh, it's something new, it's innovative. You know, it's a mixture of past, future, African roots, space, and for me, science fiction plays a huge role in the future because I can solve problems. I can, you know, take today's issues and put them in the future, and all of a sudden, to the listener, it means something different. You're able to get their attention or warn them if we don't get our act together. This is what our society, we will have a dystopian world if we don't make some changes. And for me, it's cool, but I'm not just that. And I think we all up here can say that we don't want to feel like we're monolithic, or, you know, we're not, you know, we're a subculture. And yeah, I think when it starts getting to where when you try to put me in a box, then that's when it's not cool. But I'm a feminist, I'm a womanist, I am so many things. There's so many layers to us as people. So I think it's kind of cool to have that as being a part of my fabric. I embrace it.
Yeah, totally. I think one of the things that's echoed through what you and Jamal are both saying is that it's a real, or for me, I think about Afrofuturism as this kind of faith-based system, that it's something that we can truly believe in and guide our lives based upon, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something that can limit us. Especially all of you have so many different ways in which you present your creative output. I wonder about, especially Janelle, back to you, what it means, because you've become so much since, you know, the first two albums, this like poster child for what Afrofuturism means, and in a way that I think is really wonderful and generative, but I'm sure on your end, like dealing with interviews can be difficult. I wonder if to you, how do you maintain, and I guess all of you can speak to this really, how do you maintain a sense of self in your own commitment to some Afrofuturist aesthetic, or some aesthetic about like who you are as you traverse different genres?
I think for me, I always, again, preach the importance of embracing what makes you unique, even if it makes others uncomfortable. And that right there is freedom in that. It's like, this is where I am now. I may decide that, you know, the next album I, you know, want to talk about elephants or whatever it may be, whatever's moving my heart and where I am. I just won't be a slave to my own interpretation of who I am and what I can do. And I won't allow anybody else to put those boundaries on me, because I think that when you start also thinking that, yeah, I'm this one thing and I'm, you know, I'm so important to this culture and I have to continue to serve them and let them be my God, they're my master, then, you know, that's not freedom. That's not innovative. That's stifling. That's, you know, you're going backwards. And I'm about the future. So.
I mean, real quick, I think when you think of the concept of genres, like you said, and all that stuff is really marketing ploys, right? That were put by companies to be able to marginalize their profits, right? So when it comes to creators, we don't think in that way. It's like you can say, oh, you borrowed from this and that, but it's like, yo, I'm Nigerian. I grew up on Sunny Ade, Obe, Fela Kuti. Drums are in my head naturally, and beating on the drums, you know, as a kid. And then, you know, you listen to classical music, you know, Charlie Parker and so forth. You just have influences regardless of who the person is, you know? Like when you're listening to music as a kid, especially in Nigeria, there's no TV to show you a color or a genre. You just hear a chord progression, that sounds good. I'm gonna take that and run with it. So I think for us, we just make what feels good, and then the marketers will go and put it in a genre for us. We don't care. I'll make a house record today, I'll make a hip hop record, I'll do a record which is all strings, who cares? It feels good to me, so that's my perspective.
All right, I'll chime in. The way I look at it, I'm a multifaceted motherfucker. I will cut your grass if you got a check. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it. And I just want to throw this back at you. I want to call some of y'all Anglo-futurists. How does that feel? How does that feel? Somebody tell me. Does it offend you? Does it make you feel good? Do you want to hug yourself?
I do. I will challenge you on that, though, because I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier that for me is so important about Afrofuturism is that it's like the permission to continue to exist.
Yeah.
And the ways in which black bodies are subject to violence just doesn't operate with other bodies.
Yeah.
And so I think for Afrofuturism, just even thinking that there is a tomorrow, like a collective thought and belief in a tomorrow for black people is revolutionary.
Yeah, exactly.
So... yes.
And I will say this, I do think that black people are magical beings. And I will.
Majestic.
Yeah, I do. And I think that it is, you know, when I think about just that term, black girl magic, and what that means, and just the way that we see the world, and because we do live in, we're the minority in the majority, there are just certain situations and ways of thinking, and we have to use our creativity and music to deal with a lot of our problems. We have to create certain mental spaces to be able to cope with realities. And when you think about the future and where we're going, that takes in the way we walk and talk and everything, it takes a very magical person to really possess those superpowers and navigate through life and deal with the harsh realities. So magic.
I concur. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. I definitely call myself a humanist. I actually like this better. I call myself a humanist, and growing up with a French mom and a dad from Cleveland, I was like, spending summer vacations with a bunch of white French people going, hey, tu veux des croissants? And I'd be like, man, it look funny. So that was my upbringing. But I will say that what's important to me about the African identity and the African influence of art and music is the continuation of its understanding. And I think that as we move into a more hybridized culture, the understanding is the important part. I think I used the word before, but appropriation is used a lot. There are some artists and some bands that just straight up take African rhythms and African inspired.
Weekend?
Yeah, exactly. But that I wasn't gonna say it, but and it's wonderful. That's been happening for a long time. But I will say, it's about feeling it and understanding it. When I hear it and I'm alarmed by it, then there's something wrong with it. You know what I mean? There's not a deeper understanding there that translates, because music is immediate. You can hear it. Sometimes you need to adjust to it, but you can hear it. And I think that for me, it's about the soul of where that comes from. And as a human race, as a totality, as a species, as a collective species that's just human, but we see each other as fractionated and different, it's about understanding both of those sides of things. Even like the cocks, as I like to call the Caucasians. No, just kidding. It's like y'all, I was hanging out with my cock friends, and it'll never catch on. But the point is, like, I feel like I grew up in both cultures, so I'm always looking for the soul in both. Because when you listen to Mozart, or you listen to Beethoven, or you look at a Moog synthesizer, or whatever it is, like, there's soul there, there's passion there, and everybody's got it. So I don't know. For me, it's about that understanding and truly feeling it, because you can imitate it, but that's not it. So, I don't know, that's what's important to me when I hear Afrofuturism, and I like your explanation of like having hope into the future, because that is a real thing. We can't just say, it's all good, you know, and just like leave it alone. We have to think in a certain way that keeps a mindfulness about everybody.
Just to add to that, I think that the Afrofuturism as a definition is a great start for people of color just to feel comfortable thinking different, being the nerd that thought like Pharrell and then was like, yo, I can make a hit record. But it's really, to me, a word that's for everyone else to start looking at us and saying, yo, that's cool, because we're just people with ideas. So it's eventually, I think people will start to look at us and be like, okay, he's not a black dude, an Afro-futuristic dude, whatever. That's just a dude with an idea, which sounds silly in 2016, but we're just people with ideas. So ideas is what it's about, because with ideas we have the traffic light, which was invented by a black dude. You know, that's just an idea. He didn't make a black traffic light. He made a light. It is black, but he made it because people were running into each other. So that definition of Afrofuturism is more, it's not for us, it's more for everyone else that's not of color or whatever, to start understanding that we have ideas and we don't need opportunity, we don't need space, we just need ideas. We just need people to understand we have ideas, and we just want to put it out.
I think coming from Nigeria, I don't know if anybody else here besides me and my brother lived in Africa, but we lived in Nigeria growing up a few years, 4 or 5 years, and to be hearing Afrofuturism is kind of almost hilarious, because we don't identify that in Nigeria. We don't call ourselves Afro or Negro or none of that. You are, if you're Yoruba, you're Yoruba, you're Igbo, you're Igbo. If you're Ghana, you're by your region. And coming here, we came here in 4th grade, Chicago. We were born in Chicago, but raised in Nigeria. We came back here in 4th grade. We're 34 now, so technically for the past 30 years, we've been trying to understand and doing a lot of case studies and research on our own of the evolution of blacks here, right? It goes deeper than just slavery. There were blacks here before slavery, and understanding how wealth is transferred, if it's transferred, and so forth. So when I hear Afrofuturism in terms like these from someone who lived in Africa, it's almost like you're trying to, almost the genre thing, you're making it okay and marginalizing that idea to say it's cool because it's Afro. But when anyone else does it, it's the standard. And that's what I don't like, right? Like, we should not be looking at any specific race or vice versa, or any other way for standards, right? I think that's what limits us as a people. There's a certain group of people that there's a standard that what they make is what we all look up to. And then anything we do, if it doesn't fit that, oh, that's weird. It's Afrofuturism. Whereas in, you just make music, right? So essentially it's like the word is needed, I guess, to remind people, like you say. It's an introduction, but at the same time, it almost needs to be like the way we saw Michael Jackson, the way we saw Prince. I hate to say they're colorless, but that shouldn't even be an issue. You just like their music. They were not colorless. They were black men that excelled in this world. So for me, the term, or just like when we create, to go back to the original question, you know, how do we feel about, you know, the genres and so forth, or how do we mix it all together? I think it's just a matter of saying, think about someone from Africa. How would they see this? Would they laugh, or would it make sense to them? You know, it's like, it wouldn't make sense to them. Like, you're telling them, you're Nigerian, you're Senegalese, but your music that you make that's great there, that everyone around you is of darker skin, here, it's Afro something. So that's it. Everything else is the standard. So I think that's where the line is drawn for me. Just being able to make sure everyone's music is the standard, not just one specific group.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important too, because I realize between this panel and the panel before that I'm just like a rampant optimist when it comes to identity. I'm like, oh, what I say about myself is what matters the most. Because I think it really is about, you know, who are we referring to as the person who's applying these labels, right? And of course, you guys are in different industries, so it operates differently. But I do think, like, whichever voice you want to privilege, like however you establish yourself as the other is really important too. Like you have to give yourself agency in this as well. Because I feel like Afrofuturism and forward thinking can be so freeing. Having the agency to self-determine is something that's really important and something that Black people in the United States have fought for very much. And the people that you mentioned fought for very much. So I think it really is a question about who is the author here and whose voice values the most. And at the end of the day, I would argue that like each individual's voice matters the most.
It matters on a within yourself kind of level, but there's a very clear definition who makes the rules in this world, because it's happened since day one. Colonialism, imperialism, it's pretty clear who's making the rules, so you can't ignore that. Mm-hmm. When you're like, we travel the world, like Europe, I mean, I'm a Black dude everywhere. Mm-hmm. Whether in Germany, they love that. You know? In London, it's like, it's cool, but it's like, you have to be realistic. I hate to say realistic, but you have to be realistic. There's one group of people who have created all these genres and these titles. So just be aware of that, and you can maneuver in it whatever way you want, but just be clear who created those rules and created those genres and created those segments and those standards. Just, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the nature of humanity in a way. Like, you know, the idea of crowdsourcing. You know, like taking averaging out like what's the average is kind of like, oh, probably the right way, but in harsher times when there were more rules in place for different classes of people based on race or orientation or ethnicity, it definitely is about finding freedom in the in-between places and working with what you had and realizing that freedom is everywhere. It's like when people say like, this art scene's dead in whatever, Brooklyn, you know, but it's coming up in Pittsburgh, whatever. Like, the thing is like, art can never be destroyed. You know, it's like energy in physics. It's like whack-a-mole. You know, you try to suppress it here, repress it here, it pops up over here. And the idea, knowing that there is no end to creativity, that creativity exists, even if you're in the worst, God's forbid, you know, situation, being imprisoned or whatever, you have your mind. No one can take away your perspective. No one can take away the way that you see the world and identify within yourself. And as long as you have that aspect of freedom within yourself and being able to see that, you know, it's like there's that movie Red Belt with Chiwetel Ejiofor. One of the lines he said, it's like there is no hold you can't get out of. And I love that idea because that's my philosophy when it comes to creativity, because oftentimes people come up and they'll be like, hey man, do that funny thing, or whatever, or be this, or smile a little bit more, that type of stuff. I'm immediately not going to do that. I mean, but I'll find a creative way not to do it. I won't be like, fuck you, motherfucker. No, it's not really that. It's more like, I see what you're doing, I'm going to wink at that, and I'm going to kind of reformat it. And maybe you might be aware of the fact that what you just asked was a little ignorant. I don't know what all that was about, but anyways.
Cool. Well, we have time for exactly 3 questions.
Oh man, I had like one.
I need to see some hands because I'm only picking 3 of y'all. Do you want to say that? Yeah,
I just, before we get into the Q&A, it's just like I got this, it's the silent elephant in the room, the gorilla on the back. I'm gonna go ahead and push my ego aside, you know what I'm saying, and get outside my head. The one thing I noticed, I've been part of a lot of these Afro-futurist talk or, yo, I'm Black, I'm relevant, you know, scenarios, and I feel like the people on the stage, we're gonna be okay, but I wanna speak for the 98.5% of people that come from our culture who don't know about Afrofuturism, and I wanna take this negative into a positive and say, well, it possibly help us be somewhere to exist in the future. I want to know, how is it possible to have an outreach for the youth who's like really in dire straits, you know what I'm saying? Like going through a lot of hurt right now, a lot of pain. And I'm trying to figure out how can we bring that enlightenment to them. I would love to see panels like this where everybody, I'm not saying all you, how you say cocks can't be in the room, you know what I'm saying? But it'd be nice to have a community outreach to have the troubled youth, especially from 6 to 16 to be in here, to see the people who's gonna be okay. Our rich gonna be paid, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna be able to eat, you know what I'm saying? So I would like, and I thank Moog for having this panel discussion, but it's the one thing I always never hear talked about. How can we go back as black people or Africans or Nigerians, and I took the DNA test, so I'm 20% Nigerian. Yo, what's up? You know what I'm saying? So be about it, you know what I'm saying? So, but I'm just saying there's a way that we can go back and tell them, hey, you're Afrofuturistic too, because some intellectuals said we are, but we were okay. But we're trying to figure out how we can reverse this and instill it in them, let them know that they have a future. You see what I'm saying? So I would like to see future panels, you know what I'm saying, future festivals really reach out into the communities, because I noticed one thing walking around in this wonderful city. I heard some people say we never had something like this before, or blah, 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 and I noticed it's the natives that's never experienced something like this before. But I come to find out, you have stuff like this all the time, but people who live in poor areas don't know about it because they're not reached out to.
Say that!
I've been to a lot of places around the world, and I see people of color, brown, yellow, whatever, and not to knock the cocks. See, I'm keep throwing that at y'all. Yeah, so, because you know, I want to let me know how that feels. You know what I'm saying? So, but I go to a lot of places around the world, and I do not see a reflective of the people I see walking on the street who mop, who pick up garbage, who wash dishes, and they're like, they got to go home and look at the TV and see that reality fed to them instead of this intellectual reality in the debate discussion we're having right now. So I just wanted to say, let's put the image and the energy forth to try to reach out, you know what I'm saying, to other people who need to be enlightened, like we're being enlightened today. So.
Art and science.
Yeah. STEAM. The A in it. STEAM. Okay, so we have wireless mics and time for 2 questions. So whoever gets to the mics first.
Sorry.
It's bad for y'all. Ladies first.
Hello, thank you everybody for your comments. My name is Leah Adeniji. Shout out to Nigerian and Yoruba people. I just had to say that. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So my question, because I don't want to take up time, is, you know, I see music as a tool for change, positive change, as well as a lot of other things. I'm disheartened by the fact that a lot of music isn't progressive, and when it isn't often played. So what do you see as, speaking of the future, roles and different things that we can do to make that change so that music could be more of a powerful tool instead of something that helps the downward cycle?
Well, I think the first step is understanding why. Great question. The first step is to understand why music is not progressive, because bad music is marketable, right? If you look at the frequency of 808s, not to say 808 music is bad, because that's what we play, but if you've ever seen, like, if you want to be a DJ and test it out, play jazz music, the room will empty out. Play 808 frequencies, people will wild out, do all these crazy things. It's mathematics, it's chakras and all that blah, blah, blah stuff. It's really a matter of people realizing that frequency works, and it makes people do crazy things, and crazy things, you know, it's good for marketing, you make more money. So why progress when you try to progress, it's gonna be weird, it might catch on 5 years later, that 5 years interim, no one makes money, so keep doing what makes money. That's the first step, right? I think, to understanding why. And then you have to, hate to say this up here, but you have to kind of understand the concept of music started in one place, right? So Africa. So you have to go back and teach a whole group of people around the world that what you've been making, what you are and what you do is actually greatness. And that's pretty hard, like he was saying, bringing people in the room, black kids, black people, and trying to teach them what Jewish people do, which is take care of yourselves first, then spread it out. That's kind of hard. It's very hard. It's very hard to convince someone there's no difference between Black Americans and Africans. Like, no, that's a booty scratch, or that's this. It's like, you're the same people. So I think it starts from individual groups being able to educate each other as we educate the collective to appreciate the different sounds of music, and as buyers to support, you know, the music that, I know I gotta hurry up, but to support the music that's not so popular, you know? I think it starts from there.
I just, real quick, I just want to say, like, you know, music is in everybody, you know, and the problem is there's not enough free music to be shown to people that is what we are. We're vibrating constantly. Everything is vibrating all around us, and again, division is an illusion. However, for people that are in desperate surroundings, the thing that often saves them is music. That's why some of our music is so great, is because it comes from really, really terrible places, because people, again, reframed their way of seeing the world and made the best out of what they had. And I think that's an absolutely great point. We need to be there, because, you know, I worked with, it's really brief, but when I was in Budapest, there were some kids in the 8th district that are considered like terrible Roma gypsy kids, and they're horrible. It's going to be terrible. And I was supposed to do a beatbox lesson thing, class thing. And as soon as I got there and I started beatboxing and people started joining in with me, like, I didn't see anything. I didn't see any of the things that people were talking about. They had rhythm, they had soul, because they were ready to do it. Everybody's there. Everybody wants to do it. It's just redistributing the wealth. The wealth is just too disparate right now. People think they don't have it, but it's not true.
I think Chance the Rapper is a great example. I was saying Chance the Rapper is a great example of music that's great out there and is free and all that, but you don't hear it on any radio station. So radio is still a great medium that needs to be tackled. They need to play more stuff like Chance, Janelle Monáe, Christian Rich. Play a lot of Christian Rich. But I just think that you still got to talk to radio. You got to get it on radio. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful. I mean, with the internet and music, and really the artists taking their music and going straight online and getting write-ups and the discovery process, I think we're just going to have to work a little bit more hard as listeners, and those who want to seek and those who feel like it's important to share new and upcoming artists and different things. It's going to be up to us. It's ultimately going to be up to humanity to continue to push for different representations and styles of music and teach the next generation that we're ushering in that, you know, there are no limitations to what you can do, but we're going to need to really make it a priority and not look for instant gratification or think that it's going to fall from the sky. We're going to have to really work harder than we have.
So I want to say one thing to what he said over there. I don't believe in the term Afrofuturism because of the fact that I am Black and I'm always thinking about my future as to what I need to do. So by default, is every Black person not an Afrofuturist? That's my question. I see all of you are music. You know, you guys have done great things in music and you guys have pushed the genre forward. Your genres, your perspective genres forward. But there are kids out here who I believe are Afrofuturists who are doing things in the present, who are bringing up issues in the present. Your Chief Keefs, your Denzel Curry, these guys who are pushing their genres forward. I didn't know I was gonna like I Don't Like when it came out. I didn't know I was gonna like Hot Nigga when it came out, Bobby Shmurda. I think that stuff is futuristic in a way, and it says two things. It says, one, you guys are the positive. You guys are pushing for that message. It's a great message that, you know, you're pushing. You're like Kendrick, you know, you're pushing out these big thoughts that are just unheard of. But then you have these other people like, let's say like, I mean, gay in no sense, but you have these other people who are looking at the other side of the coin. What happens when you don't do anything? When you don't do anything for me, you know? What is that? You know, that's you're gonna get some type of bash back. That I think that is the thing that, you know, it's not just in music. This totally relates to just music itself, but those are the sorts of questions I like that you guys are bringing up. I think you also need to look in terms of philosophy, technology, political structures, those sorts of things as well. Those are also Afro-futuristic things we can also work on. I didn't hear much of that today, so.
Do you have a question?
I do not have a question. I just wanted to.
Okay, so you want to just kind of.
That's
That's a really good point, because you're right. We always look at like the positive music and say that's Afrofuturistic or whatever, and we never look at Chief Keef and the kids that do more negative music. But you're right, Young Thug, because they're talking about, and Young Thug, by the way, is Nigerian music. It's Fuji, his style. Look it up. But you're right. That's a really good point. But my thing is, when you have music that's that negative, it always gets rewarded. So because it gets rewarded, those kids are talking about real issues, but they're not talking about it because they want to bring awareness. They're talking about it because Interscope is going to give me a $2 million deal. Oh yeah, I'm Bobby Shmurda. I'm going to actually shoot somebody, say it on the record, and now my boy just got 98 years in jail. This is a fact. This happened.
And I want to say one more thing. Everybody in here is an Afrofuturist. I know all of you are thinking about ways that we can better ourselves. That's a very important thing.
Yeah.
So don't pay into these people who like these Interscope people who are pushing that thing forward.
Yeah, but you have to understand that this is an agenda. It's not even about breaking down a race. This is just economics. It's an agenda to make money. So
preservation. I get it.
Yeah.
So I don't.
I also don't think you need titles to believe in yourself, right? If you have an idea. I mean, look at Elon Musk. I don't know if you know his history, but he's a South African. It's fucked up, but okay. let me break down this story real quick. We were in Nigeria in the 80s. Apartheid was happening. We had to walk 20 miles. This is a true story. 20 miles from school because the oil was fucked up from South Africa, trickled down to Nigeria. There's no oil. Okay. In the midst of that happening, a guy named Elon Musk, because he was white and his mother was Canadian, he's able to use her passport to say, I don't support apartheid, but my mother's white, so I have the privilege to leave when most Africans couldn't leave there. When he left, the opportunity, boom, goes to Canada, comes to America, billionaire Elon Musk. The point of that is, we as a people in general, black, white, whatever, we have to be aware of the realities around us, of people taking advantage of him taking advantage of South Africa, but also when you look at the Chief Keefs and being from Chicago and them speaking on that, like you said, it's a reality that's happening, but you don't need a title for you to speak that reality. You don't need a title to be, I get you encouraging everyone, but you yourself need to find, and this is the pull yourself by the bootstrap concept, right? But you have to find the God in you. We didn't talk about that once up here, but you have to find a God in you to be able to find your purpose. Everyone's a genius. Everyone has purpose. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been born. I mean, if you think about, this is kind of messed up to say, but this is how I'm saying fucked up shit all day. But when someone, you have sex and you ejaculate, you literally have 1 million sperms. What's the chances of you being the one that's born? You already are the gift. So you don't need Afrofuturism, I'm a genius, I'm this. You're just a person that has a chance to speak. So do it.
Right.
Well said.
Hold on, I want to chime in real quick. I get where you're coming from, I respect what you're saying, but everybody has a time to evolve and grow. And right now, when I look at the state of music, I really don't listen to the radio. But when you're saying about these young brothers who's out there doing what they're doing, I'm gonna have to be the asshole. I'm not feeling what they're doing because there's a lot of death and destruction and there's power in words. You see what I'm saying?
Say
and there's power in words when you put it on the medium of television, radio, to internet. I don't find it cute. I don't find it fancy. I don't find it vainglorious at all. Fuck a Chief Keef. Fuck all these dudes who bring negativity to our people.
Yes.
Because you gotta realize something. When people outside our culture see them act a fool like that, their vision becomes Panama vision. They see all of us being like that, regardless of how much positive we do in the world. Believe it or not, because the way the history of the world has worked upon people of melanated, situations born into this realm, that we get judged. You see what I'm saying? When Bobby Cox does his thing, if he does something wrong, the rest of the Cox don't get judged by what Bobby does. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like, I can't condone it. I can't sit here and clap about what these so-called themselves geniuses. No, they're de-evolved humans in manner, in the way of thought, the way they move forward. They're not moving forward, they're moving backward for themselves and for the generation that comes up with them who think what they're doing is so great and it's not. You know what I'm saying? It comes down to education. I don't know their background, but you know right from wrong. There's a way you can get a message out. You know how you should do it positively? We're talking about negative stuff in the hood. Marvin Gaye, what's going on? Plain and simple. So there's no excuse.
I think that also, I agree somewhat, but I think mentorship is very important.
You're right,
I think that, you know, those guys, because I mean, I'm from Kansas City, and one of the poorest counties, Wyandotte County, and you know, my parents never owned a home. My mother was a janitor. My father, you know, picked up trash. My stepfather, who was just like my dad, worked at the post office. So I grew up in a very hard working class family, but I had mentorship. I had people who believed in me, who helped show me, you know, what I needed to do to fill out an application to go to college, or what types of artists I needed to be around. Or I was in Shakespeare in high school, and that led me to writing short stories and having other actors perform them at the Coterie Theater in my neighborhood. So I think it's all about mentorship. I think that record labels, people around them, are going to have to show them another alternative. Because if we're thinking, that's it, you know, I'm going to be a basketball player or a football player because I'm naturally talented, or I gotta, you know, do trap music because that's gonna help get my family out of the hood, then they're gonna make that choice. And I've had my own family members try to tell me when I was approached to, you know, be in certain videos promoting drug use. I mean, my father was on drugs, so I felt personally bad going in and being a part of anything that was tearing my community apart. I just couldn't do it. But there's some people who will say, well, you're gonna get some money, you better go be in that video. But if I had the wrong people around me, that could have been me. So I think life is about choices, and mentorship helps us make better choices.
Thank you.
That just reminds me of a whole thing. You know, when I grew up in Montana in the 80s, we had a lot of funding for the arts and science in school. And the first thing that got cut on the NEA cutbacks in the 90s was arts and science. And those to me are the two singularly most important things to allow someone to access the natural explorer and the creative person that they are. When people understand that they are creators, it changes their whole outlook on life. And also, this whole label thing, you know, it's changed over the years, but you can't wait. You can't wait for something to happen. If you got this and this and this, then you're gonna get this. You gotta do it right now. If someone's like, oh, I wish I could make funny videos. You got a fucking camera in your pocket, make a fucking funny video and work on it and share in it. And share that with other people and speak your mind. Don't wait for things. Don't be isolationist, you know? Involve yourself. And I know the internet is really beautiful, it's addictive, and we're making a transition to a digital identity. But people are important, and you gotta spend time with people and share in your ideas and share the hopefulness. Otherwise, you're just gonna be curated to death by all the news feeds that you hear, by the music videos that you watch, and the stupid, mostly dumbass, except for KCRW, but like the mostly dumbass radio stations that you keep hearing the same shit over and over again. That's not reality, and you know that. So anyways, I'm just saying art, science, self-discovery, awareness, enlightenment, these are all important things.
Place for us to end. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And for all of you, stick around. There will be more.